Hey everyone, just wanted to give you a quick heads up. The second Global Product Owner Summit is coming soon. You can get all the details at bit.ly/Product Owner 2024. That's bit.ly/Product Owner 2024. And it's all lowercase, all one word. Oh, and stick with us until the end of the episode to know the dates and the tracks that we have for you in this year's summit. But for now, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, everybody. Today is Friday, so it's our TGIF episode and also Product Owner this week with Stephanie Cully. Hey, Stephanie, welcome back.
Thanks so much for having me.
So today is Product Owner Day. Of course, we'll talk about what great product owners look like and work like in a minute. But before that, do share with us, Stephanie, the opposite. What might have been potentially the worst product owner anti-pattern you've witnessed in your career?
Of course. So the worst anti-pattern I had, it's an anti-pattern, but it's almost like non-existent, where I was at a company. I actually was not the Scrum Master, but I was helping mentor one of the fellow Scrum Masters / BAs there. And the product owner was just non-existent. Fortunately, the business analyst / person who was standing in as a Scrum Master was very involved in understanding the product, understanding what the customer needed. But when it came to prioritizing and understanding what are the things that we should be delivering, he was basically stepping in and acting as a product owner. So it led to a lot of confusion. It led to a lot of stress and frustration. And I had to mentor this business analyst / Scrum Master and talk to him about how, okay, I understand why you're doing this. You're doing this to support the team, make sure that we're delivering this to the customer and that we're successful. But it's almost doing a disservice by doing that product owner's job for them. You're not addressing the main problem.
Absolutely. By doing the job for them, we're not addressing the main problem. So how do we address the main problem, Stephanie?
Yeah, so I met with the Scrum Master several times, and my biggest question is, do you understand why is this product owner not showing up? And so getting them to sit down and have a conversation, understand, it turns out that the product owner had a lot of other hats that they were wearing. I think many times that's the case. And at least at this company it was. And it's like, okay, yeah, I was thrown in as a product owner, but really I'm helping the customers. I'm helping talk to executives. I'm making sure that all of the business is actually running and leading people. But in addition to this, I'm supposed to be representing what the customer needs. And I just don't have time for it. So my question to them is, how can you get them more involved? Or what are some things that they can do to free up time? And I know this probably is not the most ideal situation, but in that situation, they ended up asking if there were some delegates that could be involved. So if that product owner wasn't available, I mean, of course, they needed to help prioritize. Can we sit down and have conversations with the customers to understand what exactly it is that they need and why? And this business analyst was able to map out that whole process of understanding, like, okay, where are you now? What does the ideal process look like? And how do you see this being delivered? And involving the developers in that conversation so they can understand and ask more questions. And there still had to be accountability. The person ended up getting the product owner involved and saying, like, okay, these are the things that we talked about. Like, how can I sit down with you and help you create user stories? So I know it's not technically the Scrum Master's job to create user stories, but I think part of it is this product owner was brand new. So they had no idea, like, what is a user story? Why do I use this? Why is this important for our developers to understand what the customer actually needs? And by being able to mentor this person, they were able to establish a better working relationship. They were able to actually get the information that they needed, so the developers had a clear perspective on what they were working on. But I think the biggest challenge for them is, like, not wanting to rock the boat So it's like, I don't want to hold someone accountable and say they're not doing their job. And well, I don't have time to address what's going on. I just need to keep working because we need to keep moving the ship forward. And it's like,
And moving the ship
sometimes
forward ends up
yeah,
moving it backwards.
exactly. I mean, there were so many times that the team started working on things and it's like, oh, shoot, this isn't really what the customer wanted. So even before they were having conversation with the customer, it's like, well, this is what they initially said they wanted. So let's just go ahead and throw this into our sprint and see what happens.
Mm. For me, the idea of helping the PO by involving them in, let's say, not so demanding tasks, like, for example, maybe the PO isn't ready to start writing the user stories, but they are ready to have 1 or 2 hour a week conversation with the team about what needs to be done, and we write the user stories.
Yeah,
That is not to say that we are actually creating the content for the user stories, but we are helping the PO, who is in that case very busy with other things, and we are offloading some of the tasks, but not the core tasks like prioritizing or defining what the customers are trying to achieve, what the goals of the customers are when using the product. That needs to come from the PO. And this reminded me that I wrote some time ago the sprint checklist for product owners that Scrum Masters can use to have that conversation about what the POs are ready to do at that time, but also to define a clear direction as to where they want the product owner's involvement to be later on. And of course, then assessing whether that's possible or not. That's part of the conversation as well. So I'll put the link to that in the show notes. But that conversation is really important. We talked about this, I think, already a few times this week, which is that it's not enough for us to help. We also have to set clear boundaries, clear expectations about what is required from others. And that doesn't mean that it needs to be done immediately, but it needs to be understood and it needs to be progressed towards, right? So that we don't end up, as you mentioned before, doing somebody else's job for them.
definitely. It doesn't really help the situation. You think that it does, but it just takes you a step back.
So that was a product owner anti-pattern, definitely one I'm familiar with. I've seen that many times. But there are also great product owners out there. So let's talk about one of those, Stephanie. Share with us potentially the best product owner you've ever worked with. How did they work?
Oh my gosh. So the last company that I worked for, I had the most amazing product owner. And the funny thing is she had no prior experience. She was working on the business team before, and basically they put her in and they're like, let's see, they asked her if she wanted to get promoted a year from then, and she came on board and she just asked so many questions. So she knew how passionate I was. I will talk to anyone. I'll talk your ear off about like Agile and Scrum. And she just came in with an open mind and was like, look, I'm going to be totally honest. I don't really understand Agile and Scrum. I understand the business side. I understand what they need and why they need it, but I would love some help. And that was a couple of years into owning my own business. And at that point, I had created a Scrum 101 on-demand course. And I was like, look, let's just have a couple of sessions, like bite-sized, because I think when you throw too much information at people, it's hard to digest and then they just forget it anyway. So we had a couple of sessions, and at one point we talked about, okay, like, what is the purpose of Scrum? What is the purpose of Agile? What are the different roles and responsibilities in a Scrum team? And like, what is the purpose of, what does a user story look like? What is a good user story? What is a bad user story? And so I walked her through examples. I think the tool we were using was like version 1 at the time. And I said, like, okay, let's go through this user story and let's see, what questions do you have about it? Like, what questions do you have about how someone would build this out, or what this would look like? And this product owner was just really interested in knowing about how they could help the team, how they could help the company. And in her own time, she spent additional time going through my Scrum 101 course, really understanding the details. And she would just always come back with questions and asking, like, hey, how can I help? How can I help you guys? She would set up sessions with the development team and say, let's go through some of these user stories like well in advance, but I want to talk to you about the customer journey. I want to talk to you about what the customer is hoping to achieve by this. And oh, by the way, I've been working for the business for several years now. I can tell you about the pain points that we're experiencing and why that's such a big issue for us and how it's impacting the rest of the business. So I think her having such an open mind, her being open to feedback and just wanting to help really helped the team to grow. And she was also very open to conversations in the retrospective where it was like, if things weren't going well, let's say the examples of when shift priorities would shift mid-sprint, and it might not even be her fault, but it may be, okay, well, my VP is asking for this, so now we need to change. Being open to like, okay, how can we have conversations even with the leadership and say like, when we change something 5 days in and you ask for this, which is like number one priority, it's going to help save the company, $500,000. Now we've shifted gears and we've done context switching, and now that piece of software won't be delivered until much later. And then this other piece, it's going to take some ramp up time to really know what they're doing with this. So other priorities will be impacted. So I think she just had an overall really great mindset, positive outlook, and she just wanted to help the team.
Absolutely. And that openness is such a rich part of the collaboration, right? Like when we work with a PO or a team member that is open, then we know we can do a lot of, we can have a big impact. And it allows us to then focus on that relationship and the collaboration instead of trying to, as it often happens also during change processes, trying to go through all of the objections one by one, but rather we go straight into being productive, into helping. And the fact that this person had all of that knowledge about the business and the customer journey was definitely also something big for the team, right? Because the team was then able to ask the questions and understand things from a business and customer perspective.
Yeah. And I mean, she also really cared about the team. Like, I think the team felt from the Scrum Master and product owner view, it wasn't just, okay, let's get all this stuff done. Let's keep moving forward. There was a moment where we had one developer who was just, it seemed like he was getting burnt out. And we were having conversations. He's like, yeah, I'm in all of these meetings for this. And the product owner and I are asking, okay, well, can you tell me more about this? Why are you getting pulled in? And it was something he had worked on a previous project. So every couple of months, some team members get switched around, and they kept pulling him in for conversations about how to do things. So we're like, okay, how do we either help train these people on these other team members on how to do it, or how do we take out some of your time so you're not spending 40 hours a week doing development work, plus you're spending like 10, 20 hours training someone else. Let's make it a more realistic schedule so that you're able to balance your work and not feel totally burnt out. So I think in previous experiences, that was not what he had happened. So he was very, very surprised by the product owner showing that genuine interest in care in their well-being.
Which is another great characteristic for a PO, because a great team will always deliver great software. But if we're overworked and stressed out and even burnout, then of course we're not going to deliver, right? And that insight is extremely important for a PO to have. A great story, Stephanie. Unfortunately, we're getting close to the end. But before we go, do share with us, where can people find out more about you and the work that you're doing?
Yeah. If folks are looking for me, feel free to reach me on LinkedIn. You can find me at Stephanie Cully. I also have an Instagram and a YouTube channel. You can find me at Scrum Steph and Scrum Life on YouTube.
Absolutely. And we'll put all of those links on the show notes. Make sure that you can easily access those. And why not reach out to Stephanie and ask a few follow-up questions? I'm sure she would be delighted to engage in a conversation about any of the topics we've discussed this week. Stephanie, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your generosity with your time and your knowledge.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast.
Hi there, Agile friends. Thank you for sticking around and listening to the details of the Product Owner Summit, this year's global summit dedicated to a critical Scrum role, the product owner role, of course. We'll have some amazing keynotes and 4 tracks filled with first-hand stories and experiences for product owners to learn more about that critical Scrum role. The summit will take place between April 23rd and 25th, so book your calendars. There will be loads of sessions for you to attend. One of the keynotes will be Dave West, the product owner and CEO at Scrum.org, one of the largest Scrum organizations in the world. If you want to know more, check out the details at bit.ly/product owner 2024. That's all one word, all lowercase, bit.ly/product owner 2024. We will also have 4 tracks. The 4 tracks will cover cross-functional product ownership. That's track 1. As Pixar's Ratatouille said, not every idea can be a great idea, but a great idea can come from anywhere. And this quote emphasizes the importance of a product owner being open to all ideas, regardless of the source, and also challenges us to focus on getting good ideas from everywhere and involving the whole team in the product owner role and responsibilities. The second track is Designing Products for Growth, where we explore how to craft products ready for scalable growth, merging practical strategies with innovation. The idea here is to learn to design products for growth, whether it is sales or customer acquisition. The third track is Know Your Users, user-centric approaches for agile development. In this track, we learn to master user-centric techniques in agile development, to deeply understand customer needs and transform insights into meaningful UX designs that focus on engagement and satisfaction. This is a track ideal for innovation-focused agile teams. And the fourth track, one of the most exciting tracks in my opinion, is product development with AI, ideas for product owners. Not only do we discuss about using AI in the products, but also AI for product owners to learn to make a bigger impact with the help of the AI tools that we already have. The Product Owner Summit will also present to you great opportunities to network with your peers. So get your ticket and join our Slack. You can get the ticket and join the Slack at bit.ly/product owner 2024. As always, we have free tickets and also the paid tickets that help to support this podcast. So check them out at bit.ly/product owner 2024. That's all lowercase, all one word, product owner 2024. I'll see you in the summit floor.